here on the podcast. The Golden State Warriors and the Boston Celtics, game one on Thursday night. Join me today to preview the NBA Finals. Big NBA guy, big Celtics guy, Martino Puccio is here. Martino, how are you?
Good, good. Been a hell of a sports week for me. Well, yeah, I guess, 10 days or whatever. But the Sunday to Sunday I just had from the 23rd, I want to say, to the no, actually, sorry, the 22nd to the 29th was a great one for me. And on top of the Mets so far. So, I mean, it's all gravy right now. It's definitely new to me or yeah, no, definitely new. Definitely new.
Yeah, and it's also a good New York sports moment too, because both baseball teams are in first place. The Rangers are in the Eastern Conference Finals, and the basketball stinks, but they got three teams that are doing very well right now.
Yeah, I mean, listen, I think the Nets are just like a separate thing. The Knicks are, I mean, you get accustomed to that. But I got to say, I think football is going to turn a corner this year. I think this will be the best football year by both squads in at least half a decade, I think. So I think there's been improvements everywhere. So it's decent times right now in New York. We'll see who could pull off what. The Rangers are going to go up against one of the greatest dynasties in recent memory. So, I mean, it's a big one. I wouldn't know how to feel if I were you guys right now, but you never know. You give yourself a chance.
Yeah, absolutely. And I admit the Rangers have been distracting from the NBA playoffs a bit, but from what I've seen thus far, it does feel like this postseason feels like a lot less exciting than we've seen in recent years. I feel like there's been a lot of times where the games are blowouts or one team's just steamrolling the other one. I feel like I've not had a lot of drama here. Do you feel the same way? I know you're a little biased with the Celtics situation here, but in general, it feels like the whole NBA playoffs are sort of down this year.
From a neutral perspective, I get it,
Yeah.
but if my team's in the finals, so everything's intense, regardless if it was 20-point leads in whatever game or blowing a team out like that, it's still highly nerve-wracking. But I get it from a neutral perspective because some of these series, if you go back to the Warriors and Cavs series when the Cavs came back from 3-1 down, a lot of those games weren't that close. And that's kind of been a trend for a while. From what I can remember, probably since the 2014 postseason, we've seen a lot of this. There's been some great series here and there, but I think this is actually just a culmination of fitting in all the games last year and then trying to get them back in the bubble the year prior in 2020 and, playing another set of 82 games, the playoffs. The Celtics Eric Spoelstra talked about it. There wasn't over a day of rest in that series. Everything was a singular day of rest. It wasn't like they were giving a breather to some of these guys. And, Jimmy's banged up. Jimmy, you could even see it on that final three. He tried playing hero ball with he came up short with it. It's just tired legs. It happens, and I think that's part of the product. I think certain things have to change. I think the inconsistency as well for some of these referees that are so used to calling certain things fouls and things are not fouls right now that used to be for the past 10 plus years or however long it was. I think it's a little difficult for some of these players to still make those adjustments because it's the first year like that. So many guys like James Harden are used to getting away with certain things. And overall, I think that the talent gap is it's kind of always been like this. I can't say I'm surprised. And then on top of it, injuries don't help anybody. This is the second year in a row, where it's abysmal with it. And I've seen my team have multiple injuries over the years in the playoffs, never healthy. This is what happens. And, basketball has always been that type of sport, though, where the best team usually wins. There aren't that many crazy upsets, which a lot of people have to remember. Because if you're expecting an 8 beating a 1, then I'm sorry to break it to you. That kind of stuff just doesn't happen anymore. And even if it did, it's incredibly rare. So I can't say I'm surprised by it. I understand from the neutral fan perspective, though, because I talk to a lot of people who aren't as big into the NBA, and they look at it, they're like, why am I watching this? What's really getting me into some of these games where we have teams winning by double digits and the amount is crazy in every single series? The Western Conference Finals sucked from a neutral perspective. How could that wasn't enjoyable? I was rooting for Luka, but I mean I don't know what you thought about that one. I thought that one was terrible.
Yeah, I mean the West was not really exciting me because once Phoenix got bounced in the second round, you sort of knew that was going to be just a matter of Golden State in X games. And I mean, Golden State, I mean, they really had, I feel like, a pretty stress-free postseason. I mean, they win in 5 against Denver. They win in 6 against the Grizzlies. You know, like most of those games were not very close. And then the Mavericks were overmatched, so they win in 5. So what do you think about the path that Golden State took to get here?
I mean, listen, I think I don't want to rip teams like you play who you play, right? You can't control who's injured, who's not injured. Personally speaking, I don't think it's as impressive as we've seen with them in the past. I think playing Denver it was obvious what was going to happen there. It just really depended upon how close Jokic could keep some of the games. And obviously it wasn't really like that. Again, with Memphis, John Morant's out with that. That's a massive loss, regardless of how well they played during stretches. And Dallas were the biggest overachievers of the postseason. There's no question about it. Luka's fantastic, but there isn't a singular guy on the other team of Dallas that is capable of making an All-NBA team. Like maybe Jalen Brunson makes an All-Star game if a bunch of guys bow out. It's just the talent level isn't there. Luka wasn't supposed to be there, and the Warriors rightfully won that one. So, I mean, listen, the path, in my opinion, wasn't as hard as the Celtics, but it's not like the Celtics had it the hardest either. Like they had some fortunate things go their way, but you know what? You could say the same last year for Phoenix and Milwaukee. It's just who you play in a given year, and that's why you always try and give it your shot at the deadline or other occasions, you know?
Yeah, absolutely. And go to the Celtics side, you mentioned it earlier. They sweep the Nets in the first round. That was the complete steamroll that series. They beat the Bucks in 7. The Bucks were without Chris Middleton for a big part of that series. They beat the Heat in 7. The Heat were very banged up, but the games were sort of like back and forth the whole way through here. So what do you think about the Celtics path?
I think the Nets one is like, listen, they didn't have Ben Simmons all year, so I don't really want to hear it. You know, like they were like that. They put themselves in that situation. Like they weren't playing good enough defensively. Kevin Durant didn't even play well enough. You know, so it's not like KD was otherworldly like Jimmy Butler was. So I think that was well deserved. The Giannis is like, that's the best player since LeBron, and I don't know how anyone can dispute that at that point. We're seeing a 40 and 20 game where he's single-handedly keeping them in it. His teammates clearly didn't do enough. I think they probably or maybe win that out if, Middleton's there. And again, Miami, listen, we could go both ways. Robert Williams was coming off a torn meniscus, came in, and, was clearly limited. He missed a game in that series. He's the big reason why Bam Adebayo was struggling, and Bam's best game came when Robert Williams was not playing. They lost the Defensive Player of the Year for a game, and he was also, banged up for pretty much the entire series where he was limited. I think it went both ways in that one. And listen, like D-Wade told Jimmy Butler, no one cares if your knee's hurting. And to me, I see games 6 and 7, and Jimmy's knee didn't seem to be that big of an issue. So what happened when he was banged up in those games? Chalk it off as a negative performance. But I can't say I'm too surprised about the Kyle Lowry thing. I mean, listen, the guy's extremely overweight. He's a lot older than people want to let on. He's just not the same type of player. And you know what? Miami did not have someone that could step up and score. I think the Celtics had the best defense in a very long while, probably since the Heat's defense with LeBron. Like this is a really tough team, and they're going to make it difficult for a lot of people because how deep they can go defensive rotation wise, no one in the NBA can match. And I'm sure of that. And I think we saw it again.
Yeah, for sure. In terms of Golden State, I think it's interesting of them is like obviously they get out to like the really fast start at the beginning of the season. Then Steph Curry cools off. They fall in the same, but they integrate Klay Thompson back in here, and now they're sort of peaking as they get to the finals. What do you think about like how Golden State is playing at the moment?
I think they're playing well. I don't think they've been exceptional. I think there's certain instances within the games that they played in where like we're looking at Dallas completely melting down after going up massively big. The Celtics have been susceptible to that, but again, the Warriors are known for their runs. But listen, if you go down that big to Dallas, I don't know. It's a little sketch to me. I think the bigger matchups though are what happens with Jordan Poole and how healthy Robert Williams is. Because Celtics can go deep with some of these players off of their bench that could really match up well defensively with Jordan Poole. Like, Derek White lining up with him or any of their guards, he's going to present issues for them. I think he's one of the most underrated defensive players in the game. And not only that, he's in the finals and playing incredibly well. Smart gets a couple days to heal. I mean, that's Defensive Player of the Year. For me, it's Robert Williams presents the biggest matchup issue. Like absolutely the best big man in this series when healthy. I mean, Al Horford, the way he could defend the perimeter as well. I think I need to see Does Kevon Looney have a 20 rebound game against the Celtics? No, probably not. Does he have a great interior game where he's getting buckets in the low post? Probably not as well. So the Warriors are going to have to really answer that. And it comes down to a make or miss league. And how many shots does Steph and Clay hit as opposed to Tatum and Brown? And we're going to have to see that. And they're great. I think the last part I'll say about matchups is, does Jonathan Kuminga get the trust of Steve Kerr in the series? I think Wiggins will do a fine job, but I don't know, man. I think there's a reason why you could have an easier time against Luka, and it's more easily magnified when Luka Doncic doesn't really have the help that he, like, they're terrible. JJ Redick was talking about it on First Take. I don't really watch First Take that much, but JJ's done a good job. And basically the point he was saying was like, Luka's setting up his teammates incredibly well, but they're not hitting shots. So the Warriors are essentially giving up those shots, right? And Celtics have better shot makers than the Mavericks do. So we have to see how they respond to that. And again, I think there is a bigger chip on the Celtics' shoulder than there is the Warriors. I do get that they're the favorites in this. I just don't think this is going to be as easy as some people think. I think this is going to be a really close series.
Yeah, I think for me, the matchup I'm watching in this series is seeing how Marcus Smart does on Steph Curry. Because I feel like if he can really limit Steph, because you're not going to shut him down completely. If you can hold him down to a reasonable degree, the Celtics chance of winning the series skyrocket.
I always say this in the postseason, right? Guys will always get theirs. Always get theirs. What you don't want is a record Steph Curry game. You don't want 50 points from Steph, right? You don't want Clay going game 6 Clay. What you need is are you okay with Steph getting his averages? Yes, absolutely. Because if they're just hitting their averages, I think the Celtics win. So, I mean, again, you're right. It's what can Marcus do? How healthy is he? I don't think Steph is the same player that he was 5-6 years ago. I think that's pretty evident at this point. So we'll see what happens. I mean, Marcus is going to present so many problems. And again, the team who plays them best, even though I don't go off regular season that much, is the Boston Celtics. And it's been proven. So we'll see how they do.
Yeah, it's also fascinating with the Celtics team because for a while here, this team was not very good in the regular season. I mean, at the end of January, they're 500. You talk about, are they going to make the play-in tournament? Are they going to avoid the play-in games? And then all of a sudden, they just get red hot down the stretch, and now they're in the finals. It's an incredible turnaround.
Yeah, I mean, kudos to Brad Stevens. People say this all the time. Brad knew and coached a lot of these guys and knew who was good and who wasn't good enough to play. But you know what? Fresh eyes come in. It's not as narrow-minded looking in terms of, outlook for the team. That's what Ime Udoka presents. And Brad Stevens pulled off amazing trades, like getting Derek White at the trade deadline, whatever, if you dump Josh Richardson. I mean, Romeo Langford was a bust. Dennis Schroeder was horrendous for us. And then again, getting Al Horford back, just tremendous. Understanding the culture, has played with a lot of these guys, presents so much versatility, virtually didn't really play much last year. And then on top of it, just understanding what everyone's role is. And I think they've been together so long as that core. And also, they were young. How much players get better within a 2-year span at that age is significant. And on top of the experience that they had, I mean, it was just, they weathered this storm perfectly. And now they have a chance to get number 18 and go ahead of the Lakers again, which is awesome.
Absolutely. And obviously, I like to look at the betting angles of the series as well, because last year during the finals, I had our friend Kevin Walsh on from Sports Grid, and he correctly called the Giannis MVP final bet because, hey, if the Bucks win, nobody else on this team is getting the award besides Giannis, and that paid out pretty nicely. You listened to us. So any finals bets you're interested in?
Well, actually, I don't know if it'll count because this one was earlier, but I do like to say that I had Celtics over the Warriors at plus 290 or 390. Let me double check it. Live me out already. Love FanDuel. Fortunately, in New York, we don't get finals MVPs because they don't consider that by the Gambling Commission. A bet. Yeah, I had Celtics beating the Warriors plus 290. Prior to that, it was during the conference finals. So that was one of them. Stuff that I have been looking at. Sorry, I have to pull it back up. Where are we? Sorry. So yeah, just some of the future stuff. Listen, if you like the Celtics to just win the series, then plus 135 is where you're at, right? The series spread, it has so much juice with the Celtics, but plus 1.5, I don't see them losing 4-2. I think this goes 7. especially if they lose. The series correct score is something I always love looking at. Again, if I'm a big Celtics in 7 guy, plus 600 is there, or even Celtics in 6, right? Because I think those are the only two scenarios in which Boston wins. Boston wins in 5, like someone got hurt, or it was something that we were all wrong on. And as far as the Warriors go, I do think in 7 games as well for them, that's plus 350. I think stuff like that. I'm not sure who has all that stuff, but it's pretty interesting with 3-pointers made average. Steph is at only plus 105. That's something I would definitely look at. I know Tatum's there because he has crazy high volume, but Tatum has these games when he's bad, he's really bad. So again, there's also the game 1 series parlay. Listen, Boston Celtics take game 1 somehow, and then they win the series at plus 270, or even if they lose, you say they take one of 2, the Warriors win, and then the Celtics take the series as plus 400. And then again, the 7 games plus 185. I don't think 4 games or 5 games is really worth looking at. So you could go 6 or 7, whichever you like. And the difference isn't much. It's plus 190 for 6, and then 7's at the 185, like I mentioned. But yeah, I mean, listen, I think highest rebounding percentage odds. This one was really something I do like. Tatum at plus 900. I think that's the best like value one. Horford at plus 130. I wouldn't really take. I really wouldn't take Looney either. But Tatum can have those games where he picks up a lot of rebounds. You could see like 7 or 8. He's been averaging over 25, 5 and 5 this postseason. So that's something I could see happen. But yeah, unfortunately, I don't have series MVP prices. If you have them for me, I'll probably give you my thing. I think it's a Steph or Tatum. I don't really foresee anything else. And again, no matter what, I will say this: Stephen Curry will win the Finals MVP. Just goes. Yeah. Like they're gonna just give it to him. Yeah. You know what I mean? Like it's
as long as he plays.
I mean, how could they give it to anyone else? They're not going to give it to – if they give it to Wiggins, man, like Steph's never going to hear the end of it.
Yeah.
He's never going to hear the end of it. And I don't see Clay playing that well over the course of 7 games consistently better than everyone else. Draymond's not going to be that. Looney's not going to be that. Jordan Poole, I think he's going to have his toughest series out of the whole playoffs. So, yeah, I mean, I think it's just one of 2 guys. If I were to say a dark horse, man, I guess I would go with Jordan Poole, actually. I know I just said it's going to be tough on him, but if it's not tough for him, I think he'll be Golden State's second best player.
Yeah, I'm trying to look up the lines right now. I think on DraftKings, they have Steph plus 110, Tatum plus 170. They dropped all the way to plus 1,100 for Jaylen Brown's the third.
Jeez. Yeah, I mean, listen, not bad in terms of just tossing a few bucks on that. So, again, I think it's just between those 2, and listen, you get them in now because if one thing happens, these odds sway drastically in one direction. So, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I've been betting more on the hockey side here. I was looking at the series prices on the 2 conference finals here. The Rangers are plus 150 for the series against the Lightning.
I hope you lose. Yeah. But listen, you never know in hockey, I guess. Again, this is one of the toughest teams that they're going to be facing. They did win a game 7 on the road. Maybe that confidence is there for them, but it's still a really young side. So I would say best of luck to you, but I don't like you guys. So that's all I'm going to say.
Yeah, I was looking at this because that's funny because like the first 2 rounds, the Lightning were underdogs, series price, both series against Toronto and Florida. Now they're minus 175 favorites in the series.
Yeah. I mean, listen, now if that just kind of comes across like the bookies are like, all right, we screwed up. Like, yeah, we probably should have had Tampa favored the whole time. But now it could be, I don't know, for me, minus 170. They really just don't trust the Rangers, I guess. And I get it, but I don't know enough about puck to really have a good say on this. I just know that never underestimate a heart of a champion, especially like the Tampa Bay Lightning are. So anything goes.
Everything goes. Martina, thanks for all the time. Really appreciate it. Before I let you go, we follow social media, keep out some of the stuff you're doing.
Yeah, just still working with Proper Football. You could just follow that on Instagram, Twitter. Just been doing a lot of TikTok stuff, actually. So that's at football, at FUTBOL. Done well with that. That's some interesting stuff, though, because I've done basketball and soccer player comparisons. So it's definitely trying to bridge the gap with a lot of fans, because I know Will Schneiderhan's a fan of it, at least, because it makes sense to him. But and just my regular handle at Martino Puccio, close to 7K already, which is bananas. Obviously since they won the title, it's been a good month of like almost 1,000 people. So I mean, it's crazy. I mean, it's a good time of the year. And yeah, I mean, hopefully I see Top Gun this week.
Yeah. Yeah, seeing Top Gun will be fun. And one player comparison before you go. So who is the soccer comparison for Steph Curry?
Soccer comparison for Steph Curry could be Ronaldinho, to be honest with you. Just like someone who's just the best player in the world and just really changed the whole perception and way the sport is played. It's kind of hard because Steph is so unique. But Ronaldinho was just, it's in terms of entertainment. But I will say this, the next one that I have coming out tomorrow will be Wilt Chamberlain and Pele. So I think that one's right there. That makes a lot of sense. I'll try other stuff. I'm trying to think of baseball ones, but it's not easy at all. I'll say that.
Yeah, especially in the current age, and the players don't really market themselves very well.
Nope, I don't think anyone's gonna realize like who I legitimately could not put anyone that these fans would know. Baseball and soccer fans do not cross over. It's very, very few.
I would probably say like Otani would probably be the one you would have to start with.
But even then, no one does it. It's like pitching and hitting. It's like the guy plays defensively and is also like a midfielder or forward. Like it doesn't exist. Shohei is the most unique and greatest baseball player I've ever seen. He honestly is. Like I've seen enough evidence of what, like 2 years now, 2 to 3 years of like, if he's on the field, he's the best player in the game. Like he's even better as a pitcher this year. And now he just hit a couple homers this week and he's already over double digits there. I think he has 11. Like, are you kidding me? Again, if he literally just maintains what he's doing pitching wise and he keeps up this pace of slugging and hitting, how is he not MVP again? You have to give it to him.
Absolutely, Martina. Thanks for all the time. I really appreciate it.
Thanks, man.